What's up, guys? Barry Gaming here, back with some more Idle Heroes, and today I kind of wanted to do something more of, I haven't really done that very often, but I want to give you my kind of final thoughts on Eloise because, let's be honest, at first initial thought, that very first night testing her out in the in-game PvP, she felt pretty lackluster overall, but let's be honest, she has turned out to be probably one of the most well-rounded yet strong heroes in the game, especially if you're early, mid to late game. Now end game, you can make her work as well, but let's jump through the different game modes and talk about if she's viable and what she can do. So when it comes to Eloise, I think there's a couple really big things you have to consider. Number one, where are you in the game? Are you in the extreme late game? Are you on an account similar to maybe mine where, you're in the late game, which I think we should probably talk about. Early game is before you have an E5. Mid game is pretty much from 1 E5 to like 6 E5s. You get into the late game when you have more than 6 E5s, but what you're lacking is stellar shards and properly upgraded artifacts. And then endgame, of course, is with a ton of E5s that you can swap in and out depending on what the meta is, including multiple, probably void imprinted heroes, as well as many splendid artifacts. Eloise, I do believe, is in a good spot all the way up to the endgame. And even in the endgame, she can find a spot in the PvP meta. One thing that's really surprising, though, is of course, she doesn't beat out Garuda as that early game powerhouse PvP hero, but besides Garuda, I think she beats out just about every single hero. I have not faced an E5 Eloise versus like an E5 Inosuke one-on-one to see what happens. I would be interested to see what happens though. Inosuke has a lot of burst, so that does say something. He's got the shields. Eloise has the heal plus the end around damage. Really interesting, but as far as PvP goes, she is probably one of the best picks overall, leveling up and probably on your team until you have, towards the late game, end game. You've seen the PvP that we've had against similar power teams on this account right here on the Evil Meme team. She has been doing amazing things. Her active does a lot of damage, like a ton of damage. Also reduces attack. She does tons of end of round damage. She has control immunity, speed, which speed is not her strong suit. She's not a very fast hero. I almost wish this speed stat right here would have been something like damage reduction or something crazy like that. But yeah, whenever a hero is slain, all enemies lose 20% precision for 6 rounds. That does stack. That can be very, very good overall. When you're down to like the last enemy, they might have next to no precision, which also probably then means you're guaranteed blocks no matter what your build is on Eloise. But most of her damage is going to come from Game of Danger. This is upon blocking an attack deals 600% attack of damage, which I believe it's only 400% if you don't have the V3 imprint, to 3 random enemies and inflicts that Scarred Soul. Scarred Soul is going to make it happen at the end of each round, deals 3%, I believe, is again not the void imprinted version. 3% of the target's max HP, capping out at 1500% of her attack, and restores Eloise's HP by 25%. So yeah, that's pretty good. There's a couple different ways you can build her. One is more of an offensive build to really push the damage out with something like an AMB. Another way is a very tanky version of her, which essentially is going to run you with maybe like a withered armor, or just any damage reduction artifact, Plate of Courageous, and maybe full gear, maybe split gear, probably a block HP stone. Block seems to be very strong. 145%. It's a little bit of an overkill, but that's more or less for Aspen Dungeon. But as far as PvP goes, she probably is one of the best heroes out there. Now, next up is going to be talking about Sealand. So I don't know if I want to say this, but I kind of do. Sealand, she is probably the best hero to build to E5 first to get Sealand 20 done. You did see we did essentially a duplication of what we did on our free-to-play account with our solo E5 Inosuke with a 9-star Sherlock. We got Sealand 20 done with a pet that was about, I think the runes were 1041. So if in case you guys don't know what I'm talking about, the runes with the pets, they were 10 on HP, 40 on attack. 1 on speed. What we did with her was actually the opposite. We had 40 HP, 10 attack, 1 on speed, and we managed to get Sealand 20 down Shadow with literally like no support. We had like a Tix, we had a Death Sworn. Those things just kind of help out the first round or two. The Death Sworn helps out with that burn for the full time with the Phoenix. She did some amazing things. There are even reports people that have maxed out pets threw in a 0 void imprinted Eloise into Sealand 20, again with a full out pet. No support, so she didn't have the aura either. You know, when you go into fights, you actually have an aura that you can get down here based on what your team is. They sent her in completely solo with a maxed out Phoenix, and she managed to get Sealand 20 done with just like a fearless armor, plate of courageous, whatever you want to call it. That is pretty amazing. She is probably borderline the best first E5 if you're purely prioritizing Sealand, while she also has PvP abilities that she can do. Very, very good. Therefore, she's going to be pretty good in Brave Trial as well as a PvP hero. Aspen Dungeon, this is the next one we need to talk about. So, Eloise is decent. She's not amazing. She can get you to Death 1 extremely, extremely easily. You saw that run we did the other day. She got to Death 1 very, very easily. But once you get to death, she does seem to fall off, whereas I do believe heroes like Inosuke, Penny, they do have more uses in 50 plus. Her biggest downfall is the fact that all of her abilities only hit 3 enemies instead of 4. Now, you could say Inosuke is the same, but Inosuke's shield seems to be worth a lot more than her healing does when you're talking about Death 1 plus. Now, getting to Death 1, I actually feel like her heal is better than Inosuke's shield. She's much more like Ithqua, where that heal is very, very useful against sleepless waves, things like that. The only waves she actually struggled with getting to Death 1 were Vesa waves. So Vesa is a pretty hard counter to her. If you don't have void imprints like at all, she might be a bit of a struggle to get past. But overall, between her healing, her damage, everything, she is very, very strong. One thing she is not very strong at: broken spaces and flame shrine guild bosses. Now, she's decent, she's still pretty good, but she doesn't have that huge wow damage that you see some of the other heroes in the game have. She has very solid damage, but as far as big damage, you're not going to see it. She's going to serve you well, and Inosuke will do better, maybe even Ithqua, but I do believe she's better than Ithqua in ways because her block really does give her a lot of survivability, and Ithqua can have some issues surviving early game. Penny is another good choice for PvE damage. She's kind of like a Penny tier PvE damage hero. She can do good, not amazing. Tower of Oblivion, she does really good there as well. The more opponents there are, the better it is. There's a lot of opponents in Tower that hit slot 1, so you can put her in slot 1 and she just devastates them. She can do Sealand, or no, sorry, not Sealand. She can do Mim waves solo as well with the right setup, with the deer pet and everything. She can get it to work as long as you're purifying the right debuff, of course the attack debuff in the back row. She can do a lot of great things in Tower of Oblivion, but again, Tix is going to be the ruler when it comes to Tower of Oblivion. And this is kind of important, right? Realm's Gate, she does pretty solid. Let me just smash this while we're here. She does pretty solid in Realm's Gate. What she really surprised me on was she got us to Explore 1 very, very easily. I've been struggling with this account with multiple ticks, with Ignis feeding energy. I've been struggling to get to Explorer. And well, we finally got there. We finally got to Explorer 5. It was a big accomplishment for me on this account. She is extremely strong. I took every void imprint out of my ticks, all of my ticks, and I put them all onto Eloise, and she just laughs at the damage that's incoming. She kills Garudas before the carries even dive. She dies. She is extremely strong. The only place we haven't really tested her has been in Void Arc, in the Void Lords. I'll try to get a recording done of that to see what she can do, but she's not a hero that's going to do much damage within 6 rounds, I don't think. She can do some damage, not a ton. But man, oh man, Explorer hero. Now, I don't know if she's any good past Explorer into Valiant, Defier, all those, but if we're talking about just going in as like your first E5, she can do a lot of work for your account. Invest all your stellar shards into her. She's going to get you tons of progress in every single game mode. So back to what we were talking about. If you are an early game player, mid game, even late game, she's a great hero to add to your team, depending on what you need. If you still need Sealand done, she's going to be amazing at that. If you still need to get to Explorer, she's going to do great in that for you as well. If you're still struggling, even with your ticks, again, Tower, ticks would be the better option, but she can help. If you haven't gotten to Death 1, she can get you there. But if you're past Death 1, she's not going to be of that much help. And then PvE-wise, not that great. But as far as PvP goes, if you're not talking endgame PvP, she is amazing. But even at endgame, she does have a slot. So you guys need to decide if she's going to help you out on your account. I'm loving her. We're actually going to build a second one on our evil meme team to see what 2 Eloise are going to do. We already got her to 9-star. We just got to do about 400 more scrolls and wait for the very last day of the event to get that last day hero copy. And we're going to have some fun with some double Eloise. So hopefully you guys enjoy this one. Hopefully this helps you decide if you want to use your scrolls before the week are out. See you guys next time.